You are tuned to Anubhav 2.0 podcast from senior citizens, catalyzed and supported by the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India, through National Institutes for Social Defense and Media for Community Foundation. The project is conceived and designed by Dr. R. Sridharan and supported by Ashish Tiwari, Pooja Murada, Sai Sudha, and Kaushalya.
கூடுங்கள் கேளுங்கள் நண்பர்களே, இளமையில் நாம் செய்ய நினைத்ததை முதுமையில் செய்ய இயலுமே என்று வாருங்கள் வாருங்கள் நண்பர்களே, கூடுங்கள் கேளுங்கள் நண்பர்களே. கோவைவானில் ஒன்றாய் கூடி சிந்திப்போம், கேட்போம், மகிழ்வோம், சிந்திப்போம், கேட்போம், மகிழ்வோம்.
Bringing voices from the war front and celebrating the championships with the war front heroes. Today we have Colonel Sridharan with us, and we will get to know the glorious chapters of his life and how he had been a part of the entire great book of contributing to the country's success throughout. So a very good evening on behalf of Media for Community.
Thank you very much for having me in this wonderful Sainik Vani program. It's my pleasure to share my experiences with you and with through you to the listeners of Sainik Vani. And it's a pleasure always to be associated with Dr. Sridhar, who is the brainchild behind this. And yes, you can ask me any questions, and whatever answers I have, I'll give it to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. So to start with, we would all love to know, how did your career start in armed forces?
It's a very simple career. I was born in Delhi in 1949 on 23rd of April. I share my birthday with Shakespeare. The similarity ends there. And I qualified to be selected for National Defense Academy when I was just about 16. And that was in 1965. I was trained there for 3 years in Kadagwasla, and then I went to 1 year training in Indian Military Academy, Dehradun. And then I was commissioned as an officer in the Regiment of Artillery when I was about 20 years. I spent 30 years in the Indian Army in the Regiment of Artillery in various command and staff appointments. And in 1995, I took a voluntary retirement with my full pension and came home.
Wow, wonderful, sir. So why don't you share few of the most beautiful memories of your entire career while you had contributed to the nation's success and you represented the country so many times. What had been the most beautiful memories you still remember?
My beautiful memory is the regiment which I joined, which I was fortunate to command. That was 191 Field Regiment. Mm-hmm. And I grew up in that unit because the regiment is what a battalion is equivalent of. And we take pleasure on the first day of my joining the regiment from, I think after my young officers course in December 1969. And growing in that regiment and coming out, I was fortunate to be serving in I got the qualifications. I did my long gunnery staff course, which is one of the main courses in the artillery officer's career. I did that course when I was only 5 years in the Regiment of Artillery. And the next thing we had to achieve is Staff College. I qualified for Staff College in 1984 course. I did the course in 1984, and then I went back. In between, I was in multiple staff and general appointments, including one tenure in military operations, which is in Delhi, which is the highest body which coordinates all military activities in our country. And then I was also fortunate as a military assistant to the then Chief of Army Staff, General S.F. Rodrigues. Unfortunately, he is no more with us. And I served I ran his office in Delhi in South Block during the most difficult years that we went through. We had almost 3 or 4 prime ministers, one after the other. And there were so many things happening. We had the Punjab insurgency, which I had taken part in as part of my regiment. We had this Azadi from Srinagar, which I knew what happened because I was GSO1 operations in Ladakh, which at that time from Kargil to Siachen was operationally controlled by us from 3 Infantry Division headquarters. And yes, I have such happy memories of serving in all the high altitudes in this country. Yes, I was in Sikkim, I was in Arunachal Pradesh for 4 years in high altitude. I was in Ladakh and the Military Operations Directorate as a military assistant. I knew how the policy decisions are taken at the highest level with the government, including the Prime Minister, the Defence Minister, and everybody in the corridors of South Block. I was fortunate that I could get that experience and expertise. The next memory that I have is I was selected and posted as the instructor or teaching staff in the faculty of Staff College, Wellington, which is considered as a stepping stone for your future career in the Indian Army. I had perhaps my next rank in my pocket, but I quit at the peak of my career in 1995 because of the salary which I was getting was not sufficient to take care of my one daughter who was in Lady Shriram College in Delhi. My wife and other daughter were in Madhukarai in Coimbatore. I was in Wellington. I had a housing loan. And I thought I will come out and see whether my talent in the civil world will be recognized me. But as far as the army is concerned, I always tell everybody, whatever I am today, it is because of the Indian Army. You can take my colonel away from me, but you cannot take the army from my blood. And I owe everything to the Indian Army. I mean, from 16 years when the training started till 1995, I've been part and parcel of the army, and today I'm still drawing pension. And if only I had 10,000 was my last salary drawn in 1995. If I had a couple of thousand, maybe I would have left the army. But I'm not blaming the army for that. It is my own requirements. And I'm very grateful that what they taught me in those 30 years has been amazing. And I don't think there is any institution in this country which can train like the Army, Navy and the Air Force, because the NDA was a joint training organization. It still is. What else do I say about the Army? I think if in my next life, if I have only one desire, I want to rejoin the Indian Army. I never worked for anybody after I left the Army. I became an entrepreneur. But that is how the Army made us. Thank you.
So it is very, very inspiring while I was listening to you, and I'm sure that the listeners may also be glued to your story. I think it is way beyond inspiration. But sir, I have a question. A lot of people are always inquisitive to know how is a real Sainic's life, as in people who are on the war front. How is their life like? I think we would love to know it from you.
You see, one thing is as we age. I joined, I told you I was commissioned at 20 years, and we also have a family for some time. I got married in 1976, and we have 2 daughters, and like that all of us have families. Many of us who joined and went to the war front or the forward areas, including Siachen or wherever the action has been, or including places like Punjab where we had problems with insurgency, or in Srinagar, or in Nagaland, or Manipur. What makes the difference is the army, the battalion or the regiment, that becomes your adopted family. They adopt you. So we know that something happens to any one of us in war, in battle, or anywhere else, our families are safe. And that is the difference which makes us motivated to serve the Indian Army. And I must say that today the continues with that tradition, and that is take care of all of us. Even today, my regimental Jawans, whom I meet maybe twice a year, and we all remember that. I don't think that can happen in a civil life. If you leave a company, that's the end of your relationship. And that is what the Indian Army is all about. Air Force and Navy is slightly different, but the Army has got a culture which is unique. And I think that is why I call it as the greatest institution that we have.
Thank you so much, sir. So as we are celebrating 26th of July as Kargil Vijay Diwas, please tell us a little about your association with Kargil and what makes you remember Kargil so strongly even today.
Yes, I will, because I mean, once you know the terrain of Ladakh, today it has become a union territory, and those days the entire Ladakh was Srinagar or Kashmir Valley, and Jammu was part of one big state. And Ladakh is a high altitude desert, and the desert meaning that I think the landing when you do in Leh is around about 10,000 feet, and then the battles are wherever the deployment takes place. During my days, I know what we did. So during those days, from Kargil up to Siachen was in the same division. Today the organization is different, which I will not talk about because that is current. A great experience because Kargil and places en route to Siachen along the Shiok Valley were with the Pakistanis, and then we had the Chinese on the other side. For example, in Pangong Show, or I go to DPO, or if you come down from Kargil and you come to Leh, we had the Chinese as our we are protecting the country from any assault from China. So Kargil is the one end where the thing starts. You have traveled on the road from Srinagar and cross the Zozila Pass. You will enter before Kargil, there is another place and continue the name, and then you come to Kargil. And Kargil became very, tragically, I think the Pakistanis and us, we had some unwritten convention that during the very heavy snow, both of us come down from our tickets and this thing, and that year, the Pakistanis did not vacate they came and occupied the defences, which from there, one of the battalions. And then we came to know only when much later. And then, of course, the government of India and everybody decided that we have to throw the Pakistanis out. Unfortunately, I had retired long before that, but since I know the terrain, Kargil was the most difficult operation when we fought to take back those points that they had come and occupied. In mountains, the height that in which you deploy matters. And if you are higher than your enemy, you are better off. And Kargil, where they occupied our post, was dominating the road from Kargil to Leh, which is the only lifeline at the time, because the other alternative route from Ukshi to Manali, Ukshi is near Karu, Manali, Himachal Pradesh, that road was still not fully waterable. Today, of course, things are different, totally different. And communication is very nice, and Ladakh has become a tourist attraction. Today, people can go right up to Pangong Show and come back. But Kargil always stands out because the trust that we had between Pakistan and India was broken, and then we had to recapture. It was not easy. People like Sridharan, Bana Singh and all had to claw with their hands and go up to the point and take back the territory from them, because They could have dominated this Kargil Leh road. And it is a valor of our forces. I think the way that they tackled the whole thing with artillery and everything and whatever they could deploy, it's an amazing operation by itself. It's only when you go there and you see the peaks, they are so high, and the Indian Army got it back. I think it got back because I think our trust was broken by Musharraf. So in any case, now it is so many casualties we had in the war and so many people are injured or maimed. But ultimately the Indian flag flies in Kargil. And today the whole thing is different. I don't think we'll be vacating it because I'm out of the Indian Army in 95. And Kargil took place much later. But it is my having operated there as GSO and ops, I knew the entire area. One of the finest battles, I would say, that Indian Army ever fought is Kargil. And Kargil Vijay Diwas has to be celebrated for the sake of the people, number of officers and the ones who laid down their life. And the Indian Army, the officers lead from the front. And yet so many officers, young officers passing away. But it's if today Vijay Diwas we are celebrating, I think we should not forget that Kargil is a forgotten warfare. No, it's etched in all our memory. And I hope we celebrate and thank those officers and jawans who sacrificed their life in that operations.
Now, since you mentioned about Kargil, we would definitely want to know, did you ever had this instance where you faced the opponent country, the enemy, just face to face?
The only place is in J&K, where we do have posts and pickets very close to the Pakistanis. And in some places we are in handshaking distance. The other place where you see the Pakistanis, perhaps is also in Kargil, where they came down from their location. But more than seeing, of course, there are so many places in the desert where you can see the Rangers and our BSF and our CRPF holding the armies at the second level. And we do know what is happening there. But to say that daily if you go to the Wagah border, you definitely see what we are doing every day, that in the evening when the guard changes between Pakistanis and us. That is Punjab. I mean, that's a different, the terrain is so different, and it's so important that we hold that because Amritsar is so close. So we cannot let those things happen. I don't think today we are worried more about seeing each other because the technology, the way that we operate today is totally different. I mean, we have gone far beyond what we were at that time. I don't even know what is the current methodology and the technology that has been inducted in the Indian Army and for surveillance and such things. It's amazing. And the government of India has done a tremendous amount of support in the last 10, 20 years. I don't think we have to meet the Pakistanis to say where we are, but definitely they know that in case they cross that line that we have made, I don't think the government of India or the troops of the Indian Army are going to keep going.
Yes, sir. So we have been really very, very privileged that through you we could actually see the different colors of a Sainic's life. It looks very different from a normal country person, but then when you get to interact with them, I think this is like a lifetime opportunity. At least for me, it is definitely like a lifetime opportunity. But we would definitely want to ask you, sir, for the next generation to come up, for the youngsters, where do you see them? Do they really have that passion to join the armed forces? And if yes, what message would you like to give it to the young generation today?
today the armed forces, I think, is the best institution to join. Not only in terms of your salary and perks and your visa that you have to keep, but you cannot view it in terms of only monetary gains that you have as an officer or a soldier. Times have changed. When I was commissioned in 1969, my salary was 472 rupees per month. Today, 500 rupees is nothing. It's a chicken feed in everybody's life. And so is the army. Because the salary scales have all have gone up tremendously, and the way that they take care of their families, I don't think any institution will do that. I mean, I'll be very honest with you. During our time, we used to make them write letters to their families back home. And we had censorship. And if they didn't want to be censored by our own officers, we used to go to the army post office at Calcutta or Delhi. But we ensured that they wrote, and in case we saw a soldier a bit depressed, we as young officers used to go and ask him, what happened, why you are like this? And then he says, I'm not hurt from my wife. Then we used to write to the wife of the Jawan without telling him, please drop a line to your husband. So the army always said, the Chetwood motto that we learned is still valid. The officers are coming out of the same Indian Military Academy or the Officers Training Academy in Chennai. The message is same. The safety and welfare and security of the country comes first. The safety and welfare and well-being of the men that you command comes second. Your own welfare comes last, and every time. If that is the motto that which we passed on to the academy, we owe it to the nation that we take care. The Jawans are not interested whether they are fighting for the Indian Army or not. They want to know how will you take care of me and my family, and why should I follow you in an assault or an attack? Unless you have that kind of a leadership and a motivation that the Jawans can take out of the leadership of the officers today. In battle conditions where the Indian Army is involved day in and day out, you have this cross-border fighting and so many things are happening. I think without the leadership being equally aware of that and motivated, I don't think the army will be able to function. And I think our generations wise, I don't think today people are looking at the Indian Army for only not paying the salary, because they are paying a fantastic salary, fantastic pension. My pension is almost 1.4 lakhs. My wife and I cannot eat at our age of 75. So the army is fantastic. We have this insurance, medical insurance, which is available to me even after I retire. I don't have to pay for any hospital admission. The army takes care of me, or the Air Force or the Indian Navy. There are so many facilities that you get which you cannot be quantified, measured in terms of the salary that you get. And I think these are all something with a civilian anywhere, be it who is working in Tata Birlas or Reliance, he can never understand. He never gets all this.
I do understand, sir. And thank you so much for that beautiful conversation. I think it's been a great privilege to interact with a Sainik like you. And on behalf of Media for Community, a salute to all the Sainiks who have dedicated their life for the welfare and well-being of the country people. And when we say Jai Hind, we say Jai Jawan.
Thank you and stay tuned.